Welcome to Video Games Weekly. Paul Charchian with you, my co-host after a week's absence, Reiner from Game Informer and GameInformer.com. We missed you last
Yeah, I'm
week, although
glad to
Brian
be
Shea did a
back.
great job without
One of
you.
my favorite things to do during the week is sit here and talk games with you, Charch.
I appreciate that very much. We've got a variety of reviews. We got two pretty sizable reviews to go through with brand new games, including Biomutant, which I know at
Yeah.
least had some people pretty interested in. And then a game that Brian Shea mentioned to me in passing last week, and I don't remember if it was off air or on air. Knockout
Yes.
City is a dodgeball game with 2 million players in its first week of launch. So we'll talk about that and find out a little bit more about that.
Hmm.
Overwatch is one of your favorite games of all time, Reiner. I can safely say it's celebrating its 5th anniversary this week. I want to talk to you about the 5 years of Overwatch. There's some new speculation about a Steam handheld console. That's the most exciting news for me this week. And we will get to learn a little bit more about the Horizon Zero Dawn successor called Horizon Forbidden West, because we've got gameplay coming out this week from Sony. So lots to get to over the course of the show. But let's start with Biomutant, probably the biggest release, well, I guess I thought it was going to be the biggest release of the week before this Knockout City game came along. Biomutant is an open world anthropomorphic action battler role
That's a
playing
pretty good
game.
way to describe it. It's an experiment from developer Experiment 101. That is the name of the studio, and published by a name people probably know from yesteryear, THQ, now called THQ Nordic. And it's
Oh
on
yeah,
PlayStation
right.
4, Xbox One, and PC. A lot of hype going into Biomutant's launch. This thing's been delayed numerous times.
A
People
lot.
thought it looked like maybe the next
Mm-hmm.
Jack and Daxter from Naughty Dog. You remember that PlayStation 2 series, and
Oh
as
yeah,
kind
of
of a
course.
platformer with some RPG depth where you're upgrading weapons and your character, yada yada. Biomutant promised all that. It looked pretty in screenshots. It looked really great in videos. And then critics got their hands on it, and there's a common theme here, Charch, that it's pretty open world, ambitious, but not very much fun. And most critics are coming in at a 6 or a 6.5, as Marcus Stewart, Game Informer's critic, gave it a 6.5 out of 10. IGN a 6, GameSpot a 6. Everybody pretty lukewarm
Yeah.
on what we were hoping would be another great IP to kind of kick off 2021. We've been really lucky so far with games like Returnal and stuff like that hitting hard, right? And we were hoping Biomutant would be the next one that everybody's celebrating, but this is one it looks like we're going to be passing on.
Yeah, Biomutant is a jack of all trades game that almost every reviewer says the same thing: trying to do too much, trying to be too many things, and succeeding at none of them. And we've seen this many times where Reiner and it will hold it in contrast to Knockout City, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yep.
That's just doing one thing really well, and there's 2 million players. Um, with Biomutant and other games where you try to appease everybody, and it feels like a bunch of people got into a boardroom and said, well, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. And they couldn't take anything off the board. And, nobody was willing to get out the eraser and just take things off the board on what Biomutant needed to do. And so they tried to do everything with it, and they end up succeeding at none of it because none of it is put together particularly well. There's a morality system, but it lacks any gray area nuance. There's melee combat, but it doesn't feel right. There's gunplay, and there's so many great gunplay games out there. The combat has to feel great. It doesn't, and combat's mostly boring in this game. And there's not that much to do in its open world either. So, yeah, Biomutant just feels like a game that just never came
Yeah, and
together and was
it kept
overly
getting
ambitious.
delayed, and you could see why, just how ambitious it was, and it looks like it needed even more time in the cooker, at least to fill out that open world with things to do, get the gameplay right. I
Yeah.
don't think this is a game that is probably going to get a lot of content as it moves forward. I'd be shocked if it did, or patches. But yeah, it's one of those games that you wish they could have at least got a couple of those elements right, and then maybe you'd be like, it's okay if these other things are are not the best, but it doesn't really do anything well. It's all just kind of in the middle. And there's just so many better games out there that do these things right. And you just start thinking about those as you play it.
So I haven't played Biomutant, and I don't intend to because I'm not dropping $60 on a game that gets a 6.5 out of 10, which is for you. Your
It's
grading
D.
system is an
Yep.
academic
Solid
grading
D.
system, so this is a D. It's a D. There's a narrator who speaks for every creature, and so apparently, like every conversation you have with every creature, you don't get to
Yeah.
hear their
Yeah.
voice. You just hear the narrator who makes the sound of everybody and just robs everybody of their
Yeah,
individuality, which
considering
is
just how big this
weird.
game is too, like if it was a smaller game, very, a few hours here or there, you're like, okay, the narrator works like a Bastion or something like that, right? But yeah, I don't know what they were doing there.
Yeah, very, very, very strange on that decision. The one thing that Marcus Stewart, your Game Informer reviewer, liked was that you can combine oddball items to create new weird weapons. Something I think there's some kind of a banana peel related weapon and stuff like that. But that's not enough to sort of carry the day here. And Biomutant looks like a game that 3 months from now it'll come up and
it,
I'll be like, what was that game again?
right.
Oh, it was the one with the cute little fuzzy
Yeah,
adorable
maybe it'll
animals
end up
that kind
in
of
in
sucked.
Game Pass or something down the road. Who knows? And take a chance and just see what it was all about. But
Yeah.
yeah, very very puzzling release and yeah, just disappointing. It's too bad it didn't come together better than it is.
So Biomutant's a game that tries to do everything and does really none of it well. In contrast to Knockout City, the other big release of this week, which is a dodgeball game that is trying to do one thing, and that's basically play dodgeball and hit guys with balls. And it is crushing. It's free until the 30th. And so a lot of people are playing it, Reiner, and 2 million players already in Knockout City. And this game, along with other recent hits like Fall Guys and Among Us, is a testament to the universal appeal of simplicity.
Yeah.
Rocket League is the
Yeah.
most comparable game to Knockout City. And I think it feels and looks a fair amount like Rocket League. It's a multiplayer, you play in teams of 3 dodgeball game. And so you and your team of 3 are going around throwing balls at each other. And it's not complicated, but it reviewed great.
Yeah, I
Brian
think
Shea
the
gave it an
first thing
8.5
that
out of 10.
people think about when they think about dodgeball is just a flat terrain. That's not the case here in Knockout City. You're jumping around. You got multi-tiered areas. You're trying to get good positioning to either catch the ball or throw it at the other team. And there's a lot of strategy that comes into play. A lot of quick, like you said, Rocket League. A lot of quick reflexes and timing is everything. And like you said, one really simple concept here. They polished it up, made it super fun, and people are latching onto it, and now they can build on it. That's the thing we have to see with Knockout City is, will it have staying power? Will people be here beyond, a few days, a few weeks?
Yeah, when they have to pay for it in a
Right,
week,
right.
then we'll find out for sure how good it is. But the fact that Brian gave it an 8.5 out of 10 suggests to me that they're going to have a lot of success converting people to the monetized version of Knockout City. And really, if you think you've got a good game, why not throw it out for free for a month or not a month, a week, and let people try it and then just go, we think people are going to love
Yeah,
it.
and
They'll
they're going
be
with the
happy to
season
pay.
format on this, so that means there will be content coming in the future.
They are.
Launching with only 5 maps, that's not a terrible thing, but I think
Yeah.
what's really going to get people to stick around is just how much depth there is going to be in the cosmetics and unlockables and all that stuff. Rocket League, Overwatch, all those games, Fortnite. That's really where people why they stick around is to complete those battle passes and stuff like that. And it's on EA to we have to see how quickly they can turn out content here. They're going to need a lot here at launch, or in the launch window, I would say, these next couple of months to
Mm-hmm.
make this one stick. And I when I look at the market of first person shooters and Rocket League, car soccer and all that stuff, a kind of simple concept dodgeball game doesn't really whet the appetite. But when you get your hands on it, it's really fun. So don't
Well,
sleep
yeah.
on this. It's not sci-fi or anything like that in the true sense, but if you're looking for a fun competitive game to play with a couple buddies, definitely give this one a try, especially right now when it's free.
Yeah, Knockout City. Now, for anybody who's just thinking dodgeballs, throwing a ball at guys, listen to this sequence from Brian Shea's review that I think helps you better understand how it can be so compelling. In one chaotic sequence, I was at a 2-on-1 disadvantage, and both opponents had a ball. As the first one fired at me, I timed my catch perfectly, which immediately gave me a pre-charged throw, allowing me to fire back at the thrower at full speed before they knew what hit them, knocking them out. Then I dashed to avoid the second incoming throw, snagged another nearby ball, performed a spin move, put a curve on my throw, wrapped it around a pole, and hit the second opponent from an unexpected angle.
Yeah, that's when you're
That
in the
sounds pretty
zone and
fun,
it's like,
Reiner.
all right,
And
here we go. Here's 2 points. Yeah.
yes. Now, and I mentioned you play in teams of three. The balls gain an instant charge when you pass them to a teammate. So it sounds like your balls
Yep.
to be knockout quality. They have to be charged, and so when you pass, and so they're trying to support having you involve your teammates. The balls gain an instant charge, and you pass them to a teammate, letting your friends immediately fire them off at full speed to deliver a final blow to an enemy player. Players can even turn into balls themselves, allowing teammates to pick up and throw each other at enemies. I kind of like that idea.
Yeah.
Ryder can turn himself into a ball, and then I
Throw
can
me over to
throw
this
you
area and then
around the
throw me the
map.
ball and let's go. Yeah.
I kind of like it. This is again, it's called Knockout City. Reminds me of Rocket League a lot. Easy to pick up and play, and it's got crossplay on the Xbox, the PC, and the PlayStation. It's out for Switch, but it seems like nothing has crossplay on Switch, Reiner. So I don't want to say that I don't think the crossplay is on.
Yeah,
Switch.
I'm not sure if it has that yet. I'd be surprised if it did. Overwatch is a game that doesn't have crossplay yet. I think Rocket League you could play crossplay on the Switch. So maybe, yeah, that's something we'll have to investigate.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. All right, we'll go with maybe on this one. All right. So we encourage you to check out Knockout City, especially during this free window until the 30th. When we come back, Overwatch, you just mentioned it, Reiner, celebrating its 5th anniversary. It originally scored a 10 out of 10 5 years ago this week. Looking back, let's find out if that was the right score when we return to Video Games Weekly on the Fan. Welcome back. It's Video Games Weekly, segment number 2. Paul Charchian and Reiner with you. Reiner, 5 years ago this week, Overwatch scored a rare 10 out of 10 from Game Informer.
Yep.
When you look back 5 years, was that the right score?
Yes. This is still one of my favorite games ever. Maybe the game I've played more than anything else in my entire life.
Wow. That says a lot.
In this 5-year span. Yeah, I have, a group of friends that I play with all the time. We've kind of fallen off in year 4, I would say, or year 5,
okay.
Going into year 5, just given they started working on Overwatch 2 and that meant some of the kind of legacy content you would expect with each update or seasonal event wasn't there anymore. New heroes. They haven't done one in, a year and a half, something like that, maybe more than that, 2 years. So it definitely seemed like it was at the end of its lifespan and we're going to transition over to the next best thing, Overwatch 2. But the pandemic hit, things have been delayed. We don't know when that's coming now. It's not this year, but they're talking about it. It's still on the way. And I think players are just, Overwatch players are just really kind of eager to get into that new content.
Yeah,
just given, these events have just kind of, they're fun. You get new skins for your characters, new looks, like sometimes there's a different mode that they throw in, but by and large, it's been kind of dry since, or, kind of been the same game for, the last 2 years.
Yeah. And understandably. So what was the magic in Overwatch? Why is it still a vital part of gaming 5 years later?
People call it a hero shooter, this genre.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is everyone on your team plays a different role or you have a different character. You can't be, if you're playing competitive or certain modes, kind of the core modes, you can't have 2 of the same character on your team. So I could be Moira, a healer, who can teleport like Nightcrawler, dash, through space without anybody seeing her for a short burst. can shoot these energy balls that suck the life off of a person, but then also a different energy ball that heals my teammates.
Mm.
So she's a very dynamic character, whereas you could be playing a different hero or a different healer named Mercy, who just has this energy beam that heals other characters, and then she can resurrect someone when she has her ultimate attack ready, or her ultimate ability ready.
Yeah.
So you have all these different variations, and you're trying to make the best team comp, the team composition. 6v6. So you have 6 players, 2 tanks, 2 DPS, that those are the damage dealers, and then
Right.
2 healers.
2 support.
Or
Yeah.
support, right? Support can be many things. And when you have that team dynamic that's working, it is just the best. I mean, I would play the same maps over and over, and it didn't matter. We were just having so much fun because the gameplay just feels fantastic, like pitch perfect. Every character, every hero, as they call them, is just so well designed and so unique. And it's just so much fun to switch between them. And when you go against a good team, it always comes down to like the last possible second, like a capture point. It's 99 to 99. Who's going to
Yeah.
get to 100? Or pushing the payload. This big vehicle you got to kind of push down the map from point A to point B, and it gets right to the end. And it's just this huge fray right at the last possible second. And either you win or you don't. And when you win, it feels like the best thing ever. And when you don't, you're like, let's go again. Let's go. We came so close. That's the magic of Overwatch and what Blizzard made. And yeah, it's so distinct compared to the other games, like the Call of Duties and Fortnites and all that. I know Fortnite reinvented it with PUBG with the battle royale format, but they still kind of had the same kind of feel of the characters all kind of playing the same. Overwatch, every time they introduce a new hero, it's just like everything gets changed. Not just that character, that hero plays differently, but how does that change the comp? Like how does that change how I use this one character? Maybe this character I thought, was kind of dominated in this one way, all of a sudden has a new weakness exposed, and everything falls apart for that hero. You got to learn to play them in a different way. That's the magic of this game, and why I do think it is still, probably my favorite game ever, and why Overwatch 2 is going to be so important, because we really need this game to keep going because it is so special.
So what has changed in 5 years of Overwatch? You mentioned new characters. I know they've dropped. I'm sure they've dropped a bunch of new maps and battle areas, right? So and I know they've tweaked all of the characters many times, trying to find just sort of the optimal arrangement of powers and different things. So what has changed over 5 years?
Just little. They keep you playing to get seasonal skins for your heroes, and that's a big deal in Overwatch. I know it doesn't sound like much, but it is. Like, they have some really radically different character designs for the same character, just making them look so different. And you play for those, earning the currency. They still do loot boxes. This is 5 years ago when everybody was doing loot boxes. They still have those. I'm guessing that will change in Overwatch 2. I have to assume they'll go to some kind of battle pass format.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm really hoping so too, because the loot boxes are no fun. You get them whenever you level up, you get one box, but you end up spending the money you get on duplicates, the currency you get for duplicates, to buy what you want. So you just play hundreds of hours and then you get enough money to buy a few skins here or there. That's kind of the song and dance of the hardcore Overwatch players.
So in 5 years, and this is your most played game over the last 5 years, how much money have you spent on Overwatch, would you guess?
Oh, probably not more than $60.
Jeez, that's it?
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah. So like I said,
is it because you play so much that
I've leveled up. So
you're grinding anyway. So you don't
level 600 or something. Like it's ridiculous how high I am. So that's like 600 loot boxes basically, and then they give you some for seasonal events, and I've gotten most of the basic stuff. So anytime I open a loot box, I'm just getting money, the in-game currency to buy the stuff I need, or I'm still missing a bunch of the kind of the uniques, but I get the skins I want for my characters, and that's good enough. I don't need it all.
Yeah. Overwatch 2 will be huge when it comes, but we know it's not imminent. You think next year, 2022?
Yes, it has to be. Yeah, I thought it was going to be this year. I played it in 2019, Church. I played part of the new story experience. So they're going to have a co-op campaign that really dives into the lore, because that's another element of the series that people are really into, is just the backstory for the characters, what's going on in the universe. They do these kind of little animated shorts on YouTube and blizzard.com.
Yeah.
Beautifully made. You've seen World of Warcraft cinematics, it's that team making these, and people just want to know more about these characters. And so they're going to give Overwatch 2 is going to have a full campaign that you play through that finally gives us like a narrative arc within the game itself.
Ooh, all
not
right.
just kind of on the side.
Yeah.
And then I also played a new mode called Push, where there's a robot in the middle of the map, and you need to, the teams are vying to push it toward the other team's base. If the robot gets there, the match is over. Or when time expires, whatever base it's closest to, the team wins or whatever. So, and that's fun. It's a tug of war type of competitive multiplayer experience. Here's a controversy that just started brewing a few days ago, Charge.
All right. We've got Overwatch controversy. There's always Overwatch controversy, it seems.
A few days before the 5th anniversary, I don't know what they were thinking. They showed off a couple hours of Overwatch 2 gameplay and how things are changing. And they showed, characters, or the heroes are going to be a little different. And they announced that it's now going to be a 5v5 game instead of a 6v6. Yet, all the old maps, all that stuff are going to carry forward. You're going to be able to still play Overwatch 1, but it's going to be 5v5. So you have clans, these teams of people, that friends that have been playing forever, that are 6 players.
Right.
That are
now
like,
one of them's out.
Yeah. Which one of you?
Somebody's going to get voted off the island.
Yeah.
It's
which
like
one
Survivor.
of you tanks? And it's one of the 2 tanks. So they're reducing it to just 1 tank.
Okay.
So basically, if you have 2 friends that are tanks, you're going to have to, have a little
out.
battle royale or rotate them after each match. I don't know what I don't know what they're thinking. That's a huge change. I know it doesn't sound like it, that's a big change.
You explained it very well. There's so many people that have got gaming groups of exactly 6, and they've got 2 tanks because that's the way it's worked. And now for whatever reason they've decided that's not right. And that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, and those 20 plus maps that are still going to carry forward were designed with 6v6 in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, I hope Blizzard knows what they're doing with 5v5, and they see this as a logical change. I can't see it as, someone who's played the game since day one, as I know Overwatch as a 2 tank game or a 6v6 game, and anything less than that just seems odd. And we're going to have to wait and see, until 2022 or whenever it happens to really get our hands on it and understand why they did this. But the community is already, started petitions like, don't let this happen.
It's too late. It's too late.
I know, but
it can't change now. You can't just turn a 5-player game into a 6-player game.
Right. And I feel so bad for those teams that are, have those 6 players that have been playing it for 5 years. It's just such a sock to the gut. This is their game, and now they got to figure out how to play it in a different way. But right now the anniversary is going. There's an anniversary event that started on May 18th and it runs through June 8th. There's a bunch of new skins. Some of the fan favorite modes are back, like Junkenstein's Revenge, Freeze Thaw, Elimination, and Lucio Ball. So if you like Overwatch, now's a good time to go jump into it again and see, get some new skins, see what's going on with the game.
But don't be a tank. No point in being a tank now, right? I mean, I'm not going to go start Overwatch
unless you're the best of your team's tanks.
There's going to be a glut of tanks as soon as Overwatch 2 comes out.
Yeah, and so the community is just kind of, they're just in shock right now over that news. And the creative director Jeff Kaplan left a couple of weeks before this this announcement, and nobody knows why, nobody knows where he's going, but he left. So everybody's kind of worried about the state of Overwatch 2.
Yeah, that's sometimes it means nothing. Sometimes when the lead creative director leaves, it's because that person knows this thing's in trouble and it just, doesn't want to be a part of it anymore. We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see see what happens here.
Absolutely. When we come back, there's some fresh speculation that Valve is going to release a handheld Steam console. Oh, the idea of getting my entire Steam library playable in my hands. Oh boy, that would be amazing, Reiner. Let's talk about that when we come back to Video Games Weekly. Welcome back, Video Games Weekly on the Fan. Paul Charchian and Reiner with you. Reiner, before I dive into this this possible Steam handheld console, which for me is really the lead story of the whole week, let me just mention this. Skyrim is now 3,483 days old.
Okay.
What else did Bethesda do in 3,843 days? They released Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim in the span of 3,843 days. They released
And also
3 games.
a Fallout game, right?
Yeah, right, sure. Yeah, a couple of them probably. And at least Fallout 3 for sure. And the fact that we aren't even anywhere in close to the next Elder Scrolls game it's criminal. I know we talk about it a lot and I whine about it a lot. It's just, this is one of the greatest malpractices in handling a series that we've ever had. And I know that the Elder Scrolls Online is a cash cow for them. And I know that that's a real thing and it is successful. But the fact that we are now 3,843 days since Skyrim launched, and we can't even tell you the year that the next Elder Scrolls game coming is unfathomable. Malpractice.
Yep. Well, they have released it on 3,000 different systems since then, Charch. So you could get
That's
Skyrim
true. I can run it on my thermostat. So there's that. Yes.
I mean, even on your refrigerator, you could play Skyrim. That's not a joke. You could actually play the Alexa version of Skyrim,
which is crazy. And you can play that on your thermostat with Alexa.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I hear you. And that's one of my biggest problems with where games have gone over the last 2 to 3 generations. You think back to PlayStation 2, all the different Grand Theft Autos we got, Grand Theft Auto 3
of them,
Vice City, San Andreas, they were just pumping them out. On top of that, they had Bully, Red Dead Redemption, The Warriors,
LA Noire,
Manhunt. Like, they were just pumping out games.
Yeah.
Now we get a Grand Theft Auto or a Red Dead, every 10 years, it seems like. These are decade series or 7 years, 5 years, whatever it is, right? Like, it's a huge, vast amount of time between installments, yet these games stay alive, right? Like, they're not just, you play through it, see credits, and you're done, or maybe you play it twice. These are games that they want people to just keep playing in their kind of sandboxes, right?
Yeah, in perpetuity almost. And you look at GTA 5 was the 8th best-selling game last year. And it's 8 years old. Which is insane.
It is. And you can't, as a fan of the series that just wants more and more and more, it's like, oh, this stinks. But at the same time, you look at it as a business model for Rockstar and you're like, that's the way to go. They make one game and it's in the top 10 every year for a decade.
Right.
That's unheard of, but they have the magic. They've figured it out. And I can't harp on them too much, but it is too bad that games have gone this way, where our big favorite series are kind of made to be stretched out over vast amounts of time, opposed to coming back with the next, best thing a few years later.
Right. Skyrim has been kept alive largely by modders who have, if you're a PC gamer, and even the modding abilities that are on the consoles, while not nearly as robust, are still legitimate. But that's kept that game, that decade-old game, pretty fresh, which is, and Bethesda didn't have to do any work on that, right? I mean, they're not making the mods; everybody else is making the mods, and then people who eventually decide they want to mod their Skyrim up, whether they're playing PC or VR or whatever, they end up buying it, and Skyrim's still selling today.
Yeah, I bet next year we'll get Starfield. That's Bethesda's next new IP.
You think so? You think it's a 2022?
I think it's a 2022, and then I also think we might see, I wouldn't be surprised if we see an enhanced version of Skyrim for, and maybe Fallout for these new gen consoles.
I'm going to say no, but they've ported it to everything, so I'm probably on the wrong side of this. But ray
tracing charge.
Yeah, that's what we need in Skyrim is ray tracing. Correct. Yes. I gotta believe they got bigger and better things to do, but who knows?
I hope so. But you give it to a different dev team, a port team, and make this look pretty, and we'll re-release it again. Why not?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm skeptical. Let's get back to Valve
Yes.
and Steam. For most of our listeners already know, Steam is basically the one-stop shop for PC gaming and purchasing your PC games. It's your launcher. It's where 95% of my PC games are through Steam. There's new speculation related to new code that was found in the latest beta Steam client. Now, Steam releases beta clients all the time, and people that want to just test the new client, go and run it. And there are people that do that, and some of them are savvy enough, Reiner, where they'll dig through the code in the Steam clients and they'll try to find interesting things.
Yeah.
And this new latest Steam client in beta is offering brand new support for a variety of things that point to a new handheld console.
Yeah.
This new client references new controller bindings, a new UI, including quick access menus and system settings with things like airplane mode. What needs an airplane mode, Reiner? My console does not need an airplane mode, right? I don't need to put my
Or a
PS5
phone.
into airplane
Yeah.
mode,
A
right?
phone.
Phone does, but so does a handheld console, like the Switch. It references Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Those could both suggest handheld as well. It's got a power menu with power options that could also suggest handheld. And if you recall, and I'm sure you do, Reiner, about 2 weeks ago, Valve's founder, Gabe Newell, was doing a Q&A at, I think it was a high school.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody asked him about a Steam console, and he said, you're going to get news on that later this year.
Yeah.
No, you don't say no. If the answer was no, there's no Steam console coming. You don't say news is coming later this year so we can tell you no.
Yeah.
Right? You would either just not answer. If the answer is no, you would either not answer, you just say no. The fact that he said it's coming later this year is a yes.
Oh, it has to be. Yeah, they're thinking of something, and it really does sound like it might be like a Switch charge, where it could be a handheld, like you could bring on your airplane or wherever you want and play your Steam library, but also then plug it into your TV or monitor and have it be, kind of another console or computer, that you can plug your devices into and have it be on your wraparound monitors or whatever.
Which is what I want, by the way. That's exactly the implementation that I want. Now, the reason this is such a big deal, Reiner, is for people like me that have got, I've got over 100 games in my Steam library, and this would be my first ever opportunity to play them all handheld. There've been some wonky attempts to cast video from, through Wi-Fi to something that's, like on my phone that's connected to a controller, whatever. This would be the one-stop shop done correctly. If I can have effectively what is a Switch with better controllers, hopefully, better controller Switch that's got the hardware to run my PC games that I've already paid for, Reiner, so I don't have to buy anything new, in a handheld form, so I can download, however many games I can onto this thing, play it anywhere. That's intoxicating. And I can't even tell you what I'm afraid to tell you what I would pay to have access to my whole Steam library in a handheld. Probably something approaching full PC prices, like $1,000 is not off the table. If this thing is implemented really well, if it looks great, plays great, if I can have access to my whole Steam compatible library.
Oh yeah, that would be a game changer. The one thing you have to think about, or I guess there's two things here, Charge, is PC games, they typically have smaller fonts than you would find on a, like a Switch, so the screen might have to be a little bigger.
You're right.
To accommodate that, or developers would have to go in and patch it and make it mobile friendly or, handheld friendly. The second thing is this hardware would be locked, I would assume, in terms of specs, right? Like it would just be a handheld console that Valve or whoever they're partnering with makes.
Yes, presumably so, and that you would not be swapping parts in and out of it. Yes.
Whatever it's called, the Steam on the go or whatever, and then 4 years later there's Steam on the go too.
Well, they think there is a name for this.
What is that?
I hate the name; it's so bad. Steam Pal.
Yeah, they should change that.
Change that. That's not good.
I don't.
But that's in the code. There's been references to Steam Pal.
Maybe that's the code name.
I hope. No, the code name's Neptune. So they
Well,
already know
call
the
it the
code name.
Neptune.
I know, just call it the Neptune, right? That's what we were saying about the current Xbox, the Series X. What was they? There was like Scarlet or something. What was the
Yeah. Project
way
Scarlet.
cooler name? Why do they always do this? Where the dev name, the secret code name, is way cooler than the retail name.
You know what they should call it? The New Well. That has a nice ring to it, like a car, right? Like, name it after your founder, name it after Gabe.
It worked for Ford.
Or call it the Gabe. You know,
the
either
Gabe.
either
That's
will
frankly
work.
that's better. I'd rather have the Gabe
The
in my
Pal.
hands than the Steam Pal.
Oof.
That's
yeah,
so lame.
that's bad.
There are other people suggesting instead of a handheld, this code that they have found in the latest beta Steam client could suggest it's the next VR headset, and it's it would be a wireless headset, and would compete with the Oculus Quest 2, and a lot of what's in here could make sense, but airplane mode would not make sense. But
no, it actually might if it just can launch your Steam client in VR. You know, just kind of like when you watch a movie, it's like a flat screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
maybe you could just play your Steam games in there. I don't know. Yeah,
I've
That'd
seen
be
videos.
disappointing.
I've seen videos of people who bring their Oculus Quest on the plane, and they manage to play. I don't think I would do it, but
in the past, when Game Informer would travel places, it would not be unheard of to see a couple people throwing on the VR headsets and making it uncomfortable for people in that aisle.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, most of the games you gotta wave your arms around, right? You'd be just people,
hey, we're reviewing games
into people
here
constantly, right? Exactly. All right, well, we'll keep our eyes peeled for that. Coming up on Thursday, a couple days from now, Sony's going to live stream gameplay of Horizon Forbidden West. This is the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn, which I love. I was early on this. I loved it when it came out. I thought it was fantastic. It is probably one of my 5 favorite PS4 games. I pushed it relentlessly on Twitter, and I'm happy that it had such a long life, Reiner, after being only a very modest launch.
Yeah.
People, I just think word of mouth and eventually lowering the price. A lot of people have eventually ended up playing Horizon Zero Dawn. And now it's going to be a TV show, which, and it's been free recently as well. There's a lot of interest in what Sony does with this franchise as Horizon Forbidden West comes out. And we're going to see live streaming of gameplay on Thursday. What do you want to see in this live stream?
More robotic dinosaurs. that's all that matters to me. Like,
almost certainly happening, right?
So that's the big hook with the Horizon series, is it's a post-apocalyptic world. Humanity has really been set back to kind of very primitive tools church, right? Like bow and arrows, living, just very, very peacefully and in just kind of small pockets, not huge cities or anything like that. And but there are these robotic dinosaurs that are, kind of ruling the world. They're, everywhere, raptors, T-Rexes, brachiosaur, that you get to scale. And you end up finding, having to fight these beasts or these machines, other, going against other humans as well, that are, not so friendly. And as you're doing all that in this first game, you're unraveling a mystery of what happened to this world and what really is your role in it. And they delivered really satisfying answers at the end of the game. I won't spoil it for people, which kind of made me think like, oh, how are they going to do a sequel, right? Like,
yeah,
like, they really exposed what this story is and what this world is, but now we're going to the West. And so I want to see what the new mystery is there to Charge. What is this kind of red fungus or these red plants that are sprouting up that seems to be like kind of the key to whatever's happening, corrupting this world now?
In Horizon Zero Dawn, your geography was largely Arctic, Nordic. Now it's quite the opposite. We're in some much more of almost like a jungle terrain, and there are lots of it that happen in and around water. So a really different setting. But you'll still play as the same main character, Aloy.
Yep. Aloy's back. One of the best protagonists created in the last decade, I would say.
Yeah.
Or last generation of games. Like, people just adore her. I'm one of them. I think she's just incredible. Bow and arrow, I don't know if, how they can improve on that, I guess you have the dual sense, that will play a big role in drawing that back, giving you that tension. That should
Oh,
feel
for
pretty
sure,
cool.
for sure. And we should mention, because you're touching on the DualSense, it's coming for PS4 and PS5.
And the thing I'll say, Charch, is them unveiling this in kind of the E3 timeframe. They're doing a state of play here in May. E3 is going to be next month. We'll probably touch on that next week or in the weeks ahead. But it sounds like there's going to be a full slate of games. But for Sony to be announcing this now, I'm guessing that's a holiday game.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Because they are announcing it now, you're right. I think, and this might be the big real holiday release for them.
Yeah, and I'm a little confused on the timing because Ratchet and Clank is just a couple weeks away.
Right.
And it seems like it's stealing a bit of the thunder away from Ratchet, where all eyes are on that, and all of a sudden, this is going to be the most beautiful, probably PS5 game that we see. You have that team that just already makes some of the best looking games out there now with new hardware in their hands, and I can't wait to see what they do here.
Excited as well for that. We'll learn more on Thursday. We'll touch on it next week, I expect, as well. Sega is contemplating bringing back some of their back catalog of games and maybe remastering them or bringing them back in totally new ways, including Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, Panzer Dragoon, and Virtua Fighter. Those are stone cold classics, and the thought of them dusting them off could be really fun. I'll give you an example. Mm-hmm. Multiplayer Crazy Taxi sounds really fun to me. Battling to see who can pick up fares first, and if you fail, and Reiner, you get this fare first, and you're trying to get that person to their, to this other spot on the map, and then I'm trying to stop you from trying to get there, and having almost like competitions. That could just multiplayer Crazy Taxi alone sounds like fun.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I just don't want to play a pretty version of the same game where you're dropping people off at Taco Bell or
I'm kind of with you. I want them to be fresh.
Back on the Dreamcast,
right?
I played enough of that, few hours, and I was like, okay, I'm good with the Crazy Taxi experience.
Crazy Taxi was hard, by the way.
Oh yeah, it was really designed
hard.
Like an arcade game, right? Like,
it was,
yeah,
well, because it was an arcade game. It was meant to eat quarters, yeah. And then when I bought it for the Dreamcast, I'm like, aha! I don't have to be paying 50 cents a throw to play Crazy Taxi. I'll be able to, play it for long stretches, but it was just brutally difficult. I never got more than, I think, like a quarter of the way through that game.
Yeah.
It was really hard.
Of those games you mentioned, I would love Panzer Dragoon to get kind of a story-driven experience. That's kind of the on-rails flight game where you're on the back of a dragon and you're shooting down other dragons and other creatures in the world as you're kind of getting pulled along the terrain.
Yeah.
That's one where they could open it up to full open world. That lore is really cool. There was Panzer Dragoon Saga on Sega CD that just people adored.
Mm-hmm.
Stretch that out into a big AAA experience. I could see that being very similar to Horizon, actually. Where instead of running on foot, though, you have a dragon that you're getting on the back of and soaring through the skies on. That would be amazing.
Why do you think they dropped Virtua Fighter? Because most of the successful fighting franchises have stuck around,
Yeah.
But Virtua Fighter was super popular 15 years ago, and for whatever reason, they just kind of dropped it.
Some of the tightest fighting mechanics too. This wasn't a game where you could flail combos. It was very, very tight in terms of the movements and your rotation around characters, and yeah, it really did have a strong competitive pulse in the tournament scene. And yeah, I even think the last one we scored like a 9, and we're like, yeah, this game's awesome. And then Sega just stopped making them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very strange. Last thing for this show, Reiner, and we've only got about 1 to 2 minutes here.
Mm-hmm.
J.J. Abrams is working on a Portal movie. Now, Abrams and Valve have been sort of connected on this for a long time. Like 8 years ago was the first time I
was there.
Mentioned this.
Yeah, I was like one of the 100 people in the audience when
wow.
JJ and Gabe were on stage at DICE.
Yes,
talking about making movies together. Yeah,
right. Now, and basically nothing's happened since then until now. Abrams came out this week and said the script is being written for a Portal movie We don't know who's writing it. He didn't say. He didn't say who the director is that would be attached. Not him, which I'm fine with. But it would be fascinating to see Portal on the big screen. I've run out of. For a while, I was trying to track all of the video games turned TV shows and movies.
Yeah,
it's all but impossible now. There's so
getting
many.
out of control. Yeah,
it's
a good problem.
Yeah, and they're all in process. Almost none of them have gotten to the finish line yet. But Portal would be fascinating. What I think would be interesting is that you play as Shell in this, but she's never been voiced.
Yep.
And so we don't even know what she sounds like. And I think trying to do a movie around somebody who has no voice would be a little bit weird and maybe a challenge.
Also, like, she's the only living character.
So
you would
everybody
be
else
talking
is a robot.
to
yes.
Yeah, you'd be talking to AI. I guess it could work as a 2-hour movie, different AI programs or characters that are in robotic form. That could work, but yeah, there's no way you could stretch that into a TV series, I don't think, unless you kind of betray what it is.
Well, I think
you'd have to
do
expand
something
the
new.
scope.
You're gonna have to do something totally new, right?
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
But you could do Portal 1 as a movie pretty easily, with GLaDOS and the cake joke, and fans would like seeing that on the big screen.
I want Wheatley to come back.
Yeah, there you go.
Wheatley was the best, voiced by Stephen Merchant, and then Cave Johnson. How awesome!
And those are in Portal 2, though. Yeah,
that's Portal 2. Yes. But I assume this movie would be an extension of the Portal universe and not replaying either of the games.
Or they do Portal 1 and 2 as movies.
I don't think so. I mean, I just
and then force Valve to make a 3.
they're platformer games. I just think they're going to build into that that universe. By the way, do you remember Cave Johnson?
Oh yes. Do
you remember who voiced Cave Johnson?
It's a big name too.
It's now a big name, and that wasn't as big at the time.
Oh, you got to tell me.
J.K. Simmons.
That's right. J. Jonah Jameson.
J. Jonah most famously J, and he was a great J. Jonah Jameson, wasn't he? But none better in my mind than when he was in the drumming movie. How can I forget this?
I don't know what that is. Yeah.
How do you not know what I'm talking about? The jazz, where he's in the jazz school and he's the teacher. Oh, this is gonna kill me. Backlash. No. Oh, there are listeners right now going, "You are such an idiot." It's one of the greatest. Whiplash. Thank you. Okay. It's one of the greatest movies. One of the greatest characters in the history of cinema.
I got to see this. Yeah, I have not seen this movie.
Oh God, it's so good. It's unbelievable. Anyway, thank you, Reiner. Great job this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for everybody who listened. Appreciate you tuning into Video Games Weekly. We do expect to be back regardless of wild outcome next Tuesday, and we will be back in studio once the wild season ends, which could be next Tuesday. So we may be in studio that soon. Talk to you in a week, everybody. Bye-bye.